You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. And where do we begin with that? That is the question. I wanted to apologize up front for not having a show this morning. My Frank speech recording had some challenges. That's what happens when you are self-producing. We are always very encouraging of those who are wanting to help out, wanting to sponsor the show. We're looking for big sponsors, but not ones that want to interfere. In other words, the only sponsors that I'm truly interested in are ones that like the show. They want to reach the greatest and most intelligent audience in the world, which is the audience of the J.D. Rucker Show. But more importantly, that that they are wanting to help to save America. I want an America First sponsor. I want those who are willing to accept fighting for freedom, even if that gets controversial. This show does have a tendency to get a little bit on the conspiratorial side from time to time. Of course, I myself am unabashedly Christian. I have no problem with discussing my faith on air, and that does turn off some sponsors. They don't want to be associated with an overtly Christian person. They don't mind if you're a Christian as long as you don't ever mention it on your show. Well, I do believe that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I'm not going to back down from that proclamation just because it might lose a sponsor or two. As a matter of fact, I would want a sponsor who is not just accepting, but who likes that. That doesn't necessarily mean they have to be a full-blown, evangelical Christian sponsor. We'll talk to anybody. This is business we're talking about. But they can't try to interfere with the show. And so far, we've been blessed with some amazing sponsors who are like-minded and who don't mind if I mention the jabs. They don't mind if I talk about the climate hoax. They don't get mad at me if I mention the transgender supremacy agenda, which we are going to be doing today. We are going to be mentioning, at least at one point, the transgender supremacy agenda. And it really is a supremacy agenda. This isn't about equality. It never has been. They've had equal rights for a very long time, as have homosexuals or queers or whatever, any of the 57 Heinz varieties of genders and sexual orientations that they now claim to have. They've always had equal rights. They're looking for superior rights. They want the ability to go into whichever bathroom they want. You couldn't if you are a man or if you are a woman, but if you are either a man or a woman or neither a man nor a woman, then you get to pick your bathroom. That is a superior right, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Speaking of coffee, since I'm drinking some, brief shout out to one of my amazing sponsors. And now this one is unabashedly Christian. As a matter of fact, they are faith driven to the core. It's a company called Promised Grounds. You can get to them by going to jdrucker.com/coffee. Not coughing, coffee. jdrucker.com/coffee. And you can check them out. The Promised Grounds, they have, first of all, amazing coffee. I agree with ideology, but when we're talking about sponsors, the product's got to be great. Ideally, the product is going to be the best. And I can honestly say, I can stare into the camera, look you in the eye, and say the Promised Grounds is the best coffee I've ever had. I've told this story before on one of my ads, but I'll tell it again briefly. They sent me a bag, and I think I waited 4 or 5 days before even opening it, because we've got the coffee's already in the little grinder. I don't want to clean it out, so it's okay, we'll wait. And so I had added the grinder was out, added the Promised Grounds coffee to it, ground it up, went and made my coffee, and I started getting on the computer, started working, doing my thing, and probably 20-30 minutes passed. I don't like my coffee to be like burning my tongue. I like it to cool down, so I usually wait. So I went and took my first sip of coffee, and it hit me. I mean, it was whoa, that's really good coffee. And then it's holy crap, that's Promised Grounds. I had totally forgotten that I was taste testing this new product. And as it turns out, it was absolutely amazing. So check them out. They do missionary work with the money that they make. so so you're not just getting the best coffee that I've ever had, you're also helping out with the biblical cause. The last few days, obviously, since the inauguration, praise God for that, I have been talking a lot about politics, and unfortunately, we're still going to be talking politics today for a good chunk of it. But I'm going to branch out and try to get back to where I really want to be, which is talking about the strange things that are happening, the conspiracies. Not enough people out there, not enough show hosts out there are talking about the various conspiracies that are taking place, that have been taking place for years, decades, centuries, millennia. I can actually, honestly, I could trace back, and we've had this discussion in previous shows, and I should probably bring it back up again. But I could trace back many of our problems all the way back to the Garden of Eden. I'm not kidding you. Okay, and at the very least, to the post flood, Noah's world post flood, when some of the schemes that we are like coming out. I'm talking about new schemes. I'm not just talking about old stuff. I'm saying new things that we're seeing manifesting in the world today were the seeds for those things were planted back in the days of Noah. And that will be an extremely interesting discussion. We're also going to be talking about lab-grown meat. Lab-grown meat, it's a good news story, though. Rare that we have good news stories as it pertains to Bill Gates or the destruction of the food supply here in the United States of America. This one is good. People are fighting back. And I would like to think that I played at least a small role in helping to get some of that done, and I'll explain that as well during the show. For the past several days, we've been running a very particular format, right? I do an hour live, and then I replay the morning show, okay, the show that comes on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday. I replay that show, which is about an hour. It's like 56, 57 minutes. And then I come back and finish the show off live again. This allows me to go back and do my thing over at the Liberty Daily. It gives me an hour. Yesterday, I was actually able to eat dinner during that 56-minute break, which I haven't been doing enough of lately. But we're trying something different today. Not just because I was planning on doing this even before I had technical failures on that 56-minute show, but instead of breaking it apart into like hour live and then an hour not live and then however long not live again, I'm just going to work in the stories from the morning show. Work those in. I have them queued up, and we'll be able to play them that way. Instead of an hour-long gap, there's only 3, 4, 5 minutes gaps, during which time, Lord willing, we're going to try it, I'll be able to push play on that and then go do my thing on the Liberty Daily, get some more stories up, see what's happening in the news in real time, update the page, because again, for those who don't know, the Liberty Daily being a conservative news aggregator, the stories have to continuously flow, and we don't use feeds. I mean, we read feeds, but we don't feed anything into there. Every single story that goes up at the Liberty Daily has been hand-selected, hand-curated. Oftentimes we change the titles to better match what the story is, especially if in those few times when we do have to rely on a legacy media story, oftentimes I have to put in the title what the real takeaway is, because they'll say something like, Pete Hegseth is bad guy and, beat his ex-wife according to his sister. And we'll have to put in here that, read to the bottom and you find out that the ex-wife actually denies the allegations altogether. They didn't mention that until the very bottom. That's a true story. That actually happened. And now it looks as if it's going to impact Hegseth's confirmation. As a matter of fact, that is one of the stories that we covered this morning. So as my first run test, let's see how this works. Let's see if I can get this plugged in, and that way we can get the show started and see if I'll be able to, knock on wood, see if I'll be able to operate the show on a daily basis like this. These 3 toxic RINO senators may oppose Hegseth's confirmation after 11th hour hit piece affidavit with new allegations dropped. Now, It's funny. I just as a standard operating procedure in corporate media. Here's what happened: the sister or ex-sister-in-law of Pete Hegseth claimed that he was abusive to her sister, his ex-wife. They run the story. Okay, they put a good chunk of the story beneath a paywall. Okay, and they have that prerogative. The top part of the story that's not behind the paywall tells you Pete Hegseth's a monster. He like beat his ex-wife and all this other stuff. It was terrible. If you pay for it, then you can get to the bottom of the article. And at the bottom of the article, it says, and by the way, the ex-wife completely denies any of these allegations. But this report, of course, that has now been given to senators is apparently enough of an excuse for the RINOs, the biggest RINOs. There's a lot of RINOs in the U.S. Senate amongst the Republicans, a lot of uniparty swamp members. But the three biggest, the three most evil, they're already expressing interest in not voting to support him. In which case, it's funny that we're probably going to get, Pete Hegseth is probably going to get confirmed thanks to, guess who? John Fetterman, of all people. This article comes from the Gateway Pundit by Christina Layla. The three usual RINO suspects will likely oppose Pete Hegseth's Secretary of Defense confirmation after an 11th hour affidavit with false allegations of spousal abuse against Hegseth was released. Republicans, and we use that term lightly, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins may oppose Hegseth for Defense Secretary, forcing Vice President J.D. Vance to break the tie, according to Fox News reporter Chad Pergrom. Here are the details via Fox News Congress reporter. Fox has learned that unless there is a time agreement to accelerate debate on nominees, it is possible that the confirmation vote on Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth could come late Friday night or in the wee hours of Saturday morning. The key is when the Senate confirms CIA Director nominee John Ratcliffe, who is ahead of Hegseth in the queue. Fox is told to expect the vote to break the filibuster on Ratcliffe on late Thursday morning or mid tomorrow. The Senate is then afforded 2 hours of debate on that nomination. That means there's a 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time vote on Thursday to confirm Ratcliffe. Once Ratcliffe is confirmed, the Senate would then vote to break the filibuster on Hegseth on Thursday afternoon. If the Senate breaks the filibuster, that would then trigger up to 30 hours of debate. If all time is used, final confirmation on Hegseth could come late Friday night or early Saturday morning. Bottom line is, two things. Number one, you got the RINOs trying to stop Hegseth's nomination. They hate him. They're looking for a reason to stop him. You've got Mitch McConnell, who, praise God, is no longer Senate Majority Leader. His little minion John Thune is, but whatever. At least McConnell's not running the show, or at least his handlers aren't running the show. But he's coming out against Hegseth. You've got other people, Murkowski and Collins, the two. They've never been Republicans. They're not even remotely close to being Republicans. They're pro-abortion, anti-American. They're idiots. They're Democrats that pretend to be Republicans. Of course, they're probably going to vote against them. And they said J.D. Vance. I don't think it's going to come to J.D. Vance. I don't think there's going to be a 50-50 tie. I think it'll end up being John Fetterman will make it 49-51. Fetterman will cross the line and prove that he is more patriotic, more America-loving than those three RINOs. Not bad. I think it worked out. I think it worked out pretty well. That actually that went smoothly. I was able to find 3 additional stories and get them up on the Liberty Daily. Important stories, as a matter of fact. One of them is like, hey, I need to cover that during the show. So I went ahead and added it to today's lineup. I like this. I think this is going to work. It's going to be complicated. And this is one of those situations where I could certainly use a full-blown producer on this. I'm a challenge, okay? I'll just tell you up front, I'm a challenge to work with. I've been told this by multiple people. I have high expectations. I'm not very tolerant, which is one of my character flaws. I'm not very tolerant when it comes to mistakes. I make them all the time, and I'm not tolerant of myself making mistakes, and I'm definitely not tolerant of other people making mistakes. At one point I did have a I had a what's it called? A producer who I called on him in the middle of something, middle of the show, and I called on him to put something up, and nothing happened, and it was like a really awkward moment. Of course, I just powered through it, no big deal. But came to find out later, it's like, oh yeah, man, sorry, I was working on another project. I'm like, wait a second, you know, uh, and it wasn't the first time, I guess, because last time he had to use the bathroom excuse. So I guess he didn't want to make it seem that's awfully coincidental that in a 2 hour show, I catch him going to the bathroom twice in a row, you know, so he said, yeah, I was working on another project. I'm like, I pay this guy to be my producer to produce my show. And he's working on other projects while my show is live. Yeah, stuff like that. I'm a challenge to work with, bottom line. And so as a result, here we are. I am self-producing, but things change. Maybe there's a good fit for me out there. Maybe the show will be able to someday uh, advance to the point to where we can get a full-blown big studio somewhere, even a little studio. It doesn't have to be big. Full-blown studio with a live producer, somebody who's sitting there in front of me, so they can work with me. That would be the day. If you have any advice, if you have any recommendations for the show, you can always reach out to me by going to jdrucker.com/talk, jdrucker.com/talk, or hit me up on my open DMs on X at jdrucker. So this first live story that we're going to do falls back under the realm of conspiracy. Definitely not conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy fact. Nobody's questioning whether or not the powers that be, the globalist elite cabal, the powers and principalities, the New World Order, whatever you want to call them, they want to control the food. Part of controlling the food, and arguably the biggest part of controlling the food, is controlling the protein. And that's why we have the alleged bird flus making eggs and chickens more expensive, scarce even. My daughter was telling me that up in LA, they were paying $12.99 a dozen. $12.99 for a dozen eggs. Okay? There was a time, I'm not kidding, and this will make me look old. There was a time when I could get a dozen chickens, literally a dozen chickens for $12.99. Okay, when they went on sale, it's like, oh, I guess it wouldn't have been a dozen chickens. It would have been a dozen pounds of chicken when you get those sales where the chicken was 99 cents a pound. Of course, I was a lot less conscious of my health at that point, and it's like, oh my gosh, cheap chicken. I'm thinking back, I wonder what was in. I wonder how old that 99 cent a pound chicken was. Ugh, I don't want to even think about it. But anyway, so they're going after the chickens, they're going after the pork, they're going after the eggs, and yes, they are going after the cows. And leading the charge, going after the cows, trying to get rid of our beef, is world-class depopulationist William Gates, Billy the Bloodbath Gates. That's what we'll call him. Article we have over at thelibertydaily.com. Lab-grown meat backlash builds as more states say no to diabolical depopulationist Bill Gates' fake food. This comes to us from Tyler Durden over at Zero Hedge. I told you, we're going to have some good news. We can fight back. We can fight back against certain things. I'll tell you. Okay, if you were watching yesterday's show, you know that I'm sitting there saying we're not going to be able to stop artificial intelligence. We just have to get prepared for a world that is driven by artificial intelligence. We need to take care of our families and take care of ourselves. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If I don't think something's possible, then I'll tell you it's not possible. Fighting lab-grown meat, fighting Bill Gates, that's possible. As a matter of fact, I would say that we are well on our way to winning that particular war. We're winning battles. We can win this war. So according to the article, 2 states, Florida and Alabama, have banned lab-grown meat for consumption, while 3 others have proposed similar restrictions on the controversial 3D printed meat. Additionally, 10 states now mandate labeling of lab-grown meat. Meanwhile, the rest of the U.S. has no regulations governing fake meat. Nothing at all. If you're not in, I need to get that list of the 10 states where they are mandating labeling, because that means that there's a dozen states where you might be eating beef you'll know that whether or not you're eating real beef or fake beef Okay? I'm not a mathematician, but that tells me that there's 38 states where you don't know. You might be eating lab-grown meat right now. Okay? Look at your burger. Does it look like it was grown in a lab? I don't know if you can actually tell visibly, but yeah, you should know what you're eating. Bottom line, and that's why I strongly recommend buying local whenever possible. And that's not just about buying local. Go out and meet your local farmers, meet your local ranchers. Go to farmers markets. Okay, we love going to farmers markets and shaking hands with the people. It's funny. You'll see it quite often. I used to think initially in the more cynical version of me, I thought it was for effect because there was like this one farmer and the farmer's daughter literally, and their hands were very dirty. Okay. And I'm like, oh, they're just doing that. No, no. I found out later that, I was talking to one of the farmers, like, yeah, actually, we picked most of the stuff this morning. I woke up at 4:30. I was out in the field at 4:30 before the sun came out, picking the food that we were going to bring to market today. I'm like, you're kidding me. It's like, yeah, I didn't even have time to shower. Sorry for my smell. It's like, wow, so that's a real thing. It's like, yeah, did you think that like there's farmers out there making their hands dirty for effect? I'm like, no, of course not. Why would I? Who would think that? Back to the article. In the era of Trump 2.0, the Make America Healthy Again initiative aims to promote nutritious, clean, and natural food, rejecting not just science experiment foods funded by woke billionaires like Bill Gates, but also toxic processed foods or ultra processed foods, which I'm starting to learn. The more I get into this, the more I realize most foods are ultra processed foods. Most of the things that you get at the grocery store, the vast majority that you get at like restaurants, especially fast food restaurants, all of it's ultra processed. None of it's good for you. I mean, you might have, and we have, there's one good and bad thing out here in California. We do have quite a lot of natural food restaurants out here. But before you go, I remember I took my son. He's a man now, but he was a teen at the time when we went to this place, and we noticed some weird spelling. This is way. I mean, we're talking like probably 15 years ago. And it's like, wow, they spelled chicken wrong. And then we ordered it and we found out why. It's not chicken. That ain't chicken. This is in the early days, so we had no idea. Now we know better. Back to the article. On Monday, Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen announced a new legislative proposal to ban lab-grown meat from being produced in or sold in stores across the Cornhusker state. It's important we get on the offense so that Nebraska farmers and ranchers are not undermined, Pillen told reporters at a news conference. Not to mention that your citizens aren't eating poisons. Under Trump's second term, we believe the backlash to lab-grown meat will only supercharge from here, as a growing number of states will issue proposed legislation to ban the science experiment meat. When Florida Governor Ron DeSantis banned fake meat from supermarket shelves in early 2024, he said that his state was taking actions to stop the World Economic Forum's goal of forcing the world to eat lab-grown meat and insects. DeSantis also said, take your fake lab-grown meat elsewhere. We're not doing that in the state of Florida. Recall that billionaires like Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum have pushed a dystopic nightmare across the world in their attempt to reset the global food supply, one where the world eats insects and highly processed fake food. Under the guise of climate change, Gates wants to work towards artificial meat. And it's actually worse than that. He's not just messing with and pushing bug burgers or lab-grown meat. He's also trying to destroy the real meat. He's got this thing where it's okay, if we can just give these mRNA vaccines to the cows and it will reduce their flatulence. That was my best Bill Gates impersonation. I don't do impersonations very well, but yeah, and that's a real thing that actually happened. They are pushing for everything. They just don't want you to eat the food the way that God created it. They want to insert man's evils, man's science into it to make it better. They know that it's con, by the way. And I want to be clear about that. They know that it's a con. And in this case, including many of the scientists, they realize that what they're doing is wrong. They realize that what they're doing is dangerous. It's unhealthy. It does not help with climate change. There have been studies that show that lab-grown meat is worse for the climate than regular cows, regular cattle and beef. They know this, but they're pushing forward with it anyway. Now, part of it is a hope that, well, we have to do the bad stuff now so that eventually the science, the technology will catch up to where it'll be good. But a lot of times it's just a matter of, hey, we got a big grant. They want us to make lab-grown meat. Let's make lab-grown meat. Come on, let's do this. Heathens, I tell you. Now, here's like I said earlier, and before that story, we have been working with local and state cattlemen associations to try to, number one, what we thought was going to be a unified, really feel good, and let's all work together to stop this. What we learned is that there are many that are captured, some within various cattlemen's associations, including 2 states in particular, where they're like, yeah, maybe lab-grown meat isn't such a bad thing. It's like, whoa, dude, what are you saying? You're representing the Cattlemen's Association. Why would you? It's like, well, I'm just saying. So I'm not going to go into details. I can't go into details, but let's just say that we have been able to alleviate some of the challenges out there and expose, or at least threaten to expose, some of the potential wrongdoings that are happening there. And now I would say the vast majority of cattlemen's associations, local, county, and state, are on board with stopping this, with fighting for ranchers, American ranchers, pushing not just against lab-grown meat. There's so many threats to the beef industry that, one of the biggest ones, of course, are imports. Okay, I'm very hopeful that President Trump will be able to assist in that regard and not prevent, but dissuade. I don't want a ban on imports, but I do want him to, utilizing tariffs and other means to encourage, especially bigger companies here in the United States, bigger food processors, and encourage them to go back to working with more local and national ranchers, because so much of the meat that you're getting, especially again from the bigger food companies, so much of it is actually coming from overseas, and it's cheap. It's just cheaper, okay? But it's also, they're able to be clear, just a little pro tip in the beef industry, they're able to put a label on their beef that says "Product of USA," even if the meat has been imported, as long as it was processed in the United States. They can't bring over, for example, like ground beef, okay, and then put it in a package and call that product of the USA. But they can bring in cattle or slaughtered beef, process it, and then slap on the product of USA label. It's unique to beef. There are no other foods where you can do that. And this was, of course, this is big food trying to cut corners, trying to improve profits. I'm not against capitalism by any means. I'm a big fan of capitalism that helps America, not capitalism that hurts Americans. So yeah, I would love to see President Trump get engaged with that. Now, I said earlier that we are helping. We are participating. It's important to note that as the part owner of a long-term storage freeze-dried beef company, it would behoove me, from a business perspective, to not fight against lab-grown meat. The more lab-grown meat that comes out there, easier it'll be to sell our 100% all-American beef, okay? But I'm an American first, okay? Business is business, but I'm not going to sell out my nation or the people of this nation just to make a few extra bucks. That's why, despite the fact that as a veteran-owned company, we would benefit if lab-grown meat were to become more ubiquitous, we're fighting it tooth and nail. We're fighting against mRNA jabs put into cattle, just as right now the mRNA jabs are used in pretty much every single ounce of pork that is sold in the United States of America. We don't want the same thing to happen to cattle, so we're opposing that. It would benefit us as a company if we didn't oppose it, if we were to either say nothing or even encourage it. But again, we're Americans first. So I'm not trying to virtue signal here. Oh, we're so good. I'm just saying that if members of a company that would benefit from lab-grown meat, insect protein, or mRNA jabs, even if members of that company are willing to oppose these abominations, then that should give us all hope. Should give us hope that maybe we can win this particular battle. I think we will. I really do think we will. Let's take a short break, and to celebrate this particular story, I'm going to go ahead and run my ad for beef. That makes sense. I should have planned on that in the first place. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. Things what you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025 we have gone back to the original ownership structure, and I'm very excited about that because that puts me finally back more in charge, and I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. We do expect something to happen, which is why we built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high-quality, all-American, all-Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one ingredient, and that's beef. Lasts 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. I need to work on. I should probably insert a swoosh after the ads, and maybe even before the ads, rather than doing it manually. That would make more sense. Get on that, Mr. Producer. Oh wait, that's me. This next story is one we're getting back into politics. I know. Not everybody wants to hear about it, but this is actually pretty good news. Obviously, we had the pardons as Joe Biden was walking out the door. He pardoned his crime family, and he pardoned many of the J6 culprits. No, I'm not talking about the political prisoners that were, praise God, were pardoned by Trump. I'm talking about the real culprits, the Liz Cheneys of the world, who were using their show trial, their show investigation, to try to stop Trump and to try to harm you and me. Anybody who would go against them, oh boy, they wanted us to be stifled, quashed, subverted, suppressed, all of that bad stuff. Well, with the pardons, it's like, oh, well, I guess there's nothing we can do. But wait, there might be something we can do, and maybe not us, but might be something that Congress is willing to do, and that's a good sign. This comes to us from the Federalist, Molly Hemingway. The great Molly Hemingway writes, J6 investigation to move to Judiciary Committee to help Republicans uncover FBI abuses. Now, you might be wondering, why would they switch committees? It was in the Oversight Committee, which, technically speaking, should have a better play on this, but not when you look at the target. The target in this case now has shifted to the FBI. And let's be clear. Are they the top dogs in this? No, they're not. They are. Sometimes the FBI is the top dog in any particular conspiracy. In this case, I think they were the lapdogs. They were being used by the deep state, used by the uniparty swamp to try to frame, to entrap as many patriots as possible, and to try to prevent Donald Trump from ever stepping foot in the Oval Office again. If they could do something else to stop him, put him in jail, make him broke, or even have him assassinated, they were willing to do anything. But praise God that none of that happened. Now, the investigation does continue despite the pardons. Details about the funding and composition of the select subcommittee are still being arranged. Authorizing language is being drafted and will be finalized within the next 2 weeks. And they're talking about the shift from the Oversight Committee to the Judiciary Committee. But there's one man involved that I think is going to be the linchpin to make sure that this is successful. We'll get into that. Let's start with the article. Liz Cheney was pardoned by former President Joe Biden for her crimes against America, but congressional investigators will continue to uncover the truth of what really happened at the 2020 election protest at the United States Capitol, including the presence of FBI informants in the crowd, the placement and discovery of pipe bombs at party offices, and various other FBI abuses. And let's not forget the scaffold commander. That guy still needs to be exposed. One of my most popular shows, by the way, and I have to avoid lawsuits. I received legal demands. I did not take the video down, though. So while I can't go into details at this point, Lord willing, this investigation, or Trump releasing it, or whoever, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, I don't care. Somebody get the truth out about the scaffold commander, because I think I nailed it. I really do. I just can't say any more than that yet. A new select subcommittee led by Representative Barry Loudermilk from Georgia will be established under the Judiciary Committee to continue the work of the previous Congress, according to multiple sources familiar with the plan. Loudermilk led the previous efforts as chair of the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee. That subcommittee released and published 40,000 hours of security footage from January 6th, uncovered interviews suppressed by Cheney's committee that disputed her made-for-TV allegations, and referred Cheney for prosecution over her tampering with star witness Cassidy Hutchinson. Hutchinson, a low-level Trump aide, began dramatically changing her story after clandestine correspondence with the former Republican representative. Cheney, who was hand-selected by former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi to run the committee in its televised show trial, accepted a pardon for her alleged witness tampering and other crimes she may have committed. But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson announced that work would continue and that a fully funded subcommittee would be operating as of January 2nd, to find out what really happened. The pardon is going to protect her to some extent, but I continue to hear from legal minds greater than mine that there are still ways that Liz Cheney can be taken down, that Anthony Fauci can be taken down, that even people like Hunter or Frank or Jim or even Joe Biden could be taken down. Now, Joe Biden's going to be the tough one. Supreme Court was very clear in there about the immunity that a president or former president possesses. But everybody else, all they have is a pardon. They don't necessarily have immunity. But we'll talk about that if anything comes from it. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to get your hopes up. My hopes got up, and then I learned more, and it's like, oh, well, that's probably not going to happen. Anyway, back to the article. The January 6th Select Committee manipulated and destroyed evidence, created a fake, phony narrative, all to try and hurt Trump. And this is a quote, by the way, by Speaker Johnson. They even hired a TV producer from the legacy media in a desperate attempt to legitimize what Americans knew was a total hoax and a complete waste of time. Be assured of this, House Republicans will continue our investigation into this corrupt subcommittee, and it will be fully funded so it can continue next Congress. As noted earlier, Loudermilk and his staff uncovered transcribed interviews Cheney's committee had suppressed because they were at odds with the narrative she was creating. The biggest one, by the way, of the narratives that she was creating, and the suppression. She said, and everybody said on the subcommittee, said, "Oh, we have no reason to believe that Trump actually offered offered to send the National Guard to Nancy Pelosi, to Mayor Bowser. We don't want to see anything about that. Well, the reason they were able to say that officially, which in and of itself is a crime, they were able to say that officially because they had suppressed the evidence, suppressed interviews, eyewitnesses who said, yeah, Trump totally offered like 10,000. Mark Meadows, chief of staff at the time, said, hey, we'll give you, we make the request, we'll give you anything you need. You need National Guard, we'll send as many National Guard as you want. Trump then said, hey, it should be, you'll probably need about 10,000. So I'm going to offer you 10,000. If you need more, let me know. And they said, nope, no, sir. Nope, we don't worry. We got the Capitol Police and the FBI. They've already got they're definitely going to totally protect us, and they're not going to try to instigate riots or entry into the Capitol building. Totally not. I mean, think about it. This is where the corruption is. Okay, this is where, when you're talking about the true corruption in D.C., it's not from President Trump. Okay, it's not from I guess the rare honest members of Congress. It's not from the judiciary. There is some corruption in the judiciary, but not at the Supreme Court for the most part. No, the real corruption in D.C., outside of the bureaucrats and outside of the obvious deep state, is coming from people like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, there's this video. I can't play it. I've reached out for permission to play it, and hopefully we'll be able to play it tomorrow. But one of the J6 political prisoners, former political prisoners, praise God, has come out and said that he has evidence. He even said on the video, I've got the evidence literally on me that beyond a shadow of a doubt demonstrates that Nancy Pelosi instigated the events on J6, that she coordinated the events on J6, that they intentionally wanted what happened on J6. They wanted it to be worse. And that's why they denied President Trump's offer, very generous offer, of National Guard troops to protect the Capitol. They wanted it to be, they wanted the riots, they wanted the so-called insurrection. And they had evidence. Liz Cheney had evidence, eyewitness testimony that demonstrated this. And she suppressed it from the American people. And now she's fully pardoned by Joe Biden. Sorry, I get super annoyed. As I like to say, it really chaps my khakis when I think that there's a possibility that people like Nancy Pelosi, that she's going to get away with it. And when I say it, you could list a dozen things that she has done over the years, not just in public. I mean, she was making very lucrative stock trades. Well, I guess technically her husband was making very lucrative stock trades ahead of the inauguration. It seems as if they're always they're such good investors, such business-minded people, that they're able to make a crap ton of money off of her $175,000 salary. They're able to just play the market better than anybody out there. That should make you wonder. And Liz Cheney, who clearly, obviously, used her power as a congresswoman at the time, leading this faulty subcommittee, she used that power to manipulate the facts, manipulate the evidence, manipulate the witnesses, and most importantly, to manipulate the people by not showing them the truth, by manufacturing false narratives, by tampering with witnesses. These are all things that if a regular person did, they would be, minimum 12 to 15 years in jail. And that's if they were good. Well, Liz Cheney's not good, And as of now, she's not going to spend a moment in jail. It really, again, it chaps my khakis. But this is where, on certain things, we can act. Fighting lab-grown meat, great. Call your congressman, call your state representatives, your state legislators, which are extremely important, much more important than your representatives in D.C. as far as affecting your direct life. Governor's offices, call them, talk to them about fake meat, make sure that they get on board. Same thing with, tell them, hey, do what they did in Florida, do what they did in Alabama, right? We can fight that. But for stuff like trying to get Liz Cheney to face justice, what can we do? There's one thing we can do. We can pray. And if you're not a Bible-believing Christian, you're going to be like, oh, great, here we go. Well, sorry, but it's true. We do have that power, and it is a power, to pray to God for justice to be served to certain people. And that doesn't mean he's a sovereign God. He doesn't have to listen to us. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Definitely doesn't hurt to ask. Let's see. Go to the chat. LJ Sharp, love what you do. Thank you. I love what I do too. I appreciate doing it. And I love the people that watch it. There is no honest government. Absolutely true. Not a single one of them is truly honest. And that does include Trump, to be clear. Okay? But just because somebody is doing good, if you could look at people like Rand Paul. I know he's very popular. Rand Paul is not what I would consider to be a truly honest person. And here's the thing, before anybody starts jumping in there, a truly honest person cannot work in the U.S. government. There would be such a conflict of interest because they're asked on a regular basis to lie. And the lies, generally speaking, depending on who it is, those lies might be for good causes. But they're still told that they must lie. They must hide the truth. And I'm not just talking about top secret stuff. Okay? I'm talking about there is Washington, D.C., both the government as well as the bureaucracy that technically surrounds the government, they exist in this sea of lies. And it's a matter of trying to find the people that are honest enough to make good decisions about their lives, but they still have to lie. I'm just saying. And yes, that does include President Trump. I know nobody wants to ever hear that, but it's true, A truly honest person could not exist in D.C. for very long. Maybe one term, a 2-year term, that's it. Otherwise, it would either change them, which is usually what happens, because I think a lot of honest people get into, they go in as honest people, and then they get DC'd, and they realize that they have a choice. They can either keep doing what they're doing and keep fighting the good fight in the way that they're supposed to be doing, that they feel they're supposed to be doing, or they can tell all the truth and then they're out. They wouldn't last. Unfortunate reality. LJ Sharp also says, I think Nancy is the most evil person on the planet. Quite possibly. I mean, definitely up there, top 10 in my books. We could look at Alex Soros. We could look at certain people, Xi Jinping. We can look at the various leaders of our enemies. They're probably pretty evil. I would say that Vladimir Zelensky is a pretty darn evil guy. And no, I'm not a Putin shill. I don't think that Putin is a good guy either. Okay. Oh, Satan. She's a satanic as Satan himself. Yes. Yes. And then last note from LJ Sharp: look to the Lord, begging for understanding, and I do. I actually do. I literally do pray every day to be enlightened, to be inspired, to be given the words to tell you all. To be given the words to write, to have an understanding. I don't want to know it all, okay? I just want to know what I'm supposed to know. That's it. I'm not asking much. What do I need to know to be able to help fight this? Whatever this is. Whether it's a conspiracy, whether it's a evil doing. Some people, I'm so blessed to know people who are actually out there fighting, for example, child sex trafficking. I mean, when I say fighting, they're not just out there on X or TikTok. They're actually physically out there fighting. Praise God for those people. That they humble me. They make me realize that there are some decent people. Nobody's good, but there's some decent people out there. There really, really are. So, speaking of decent people being out there, I don't know a lot about MrBeast. And if you know anything about MrBeast, you're probably thinking, what in the world is Rucker going to say about MrBeast? Well, I recorded a segment earlier. I almost didn't bring it to the show today. But I had recorded a segment earlier about MrBeast and about his intention to buy TikTok. And I think it's very interesting because it's... So before anybody says let TikTok die, let's be clear about something. And my wife actually enlightened me about this. If TikTok gets banned, then there's other apps that are going to pull people in, and those apps could eventually become bigger, maybe even more evil than TikTok. I personally can't stand TikTok. I think it's truly evil. Like, not TikTok itself, it's an app. It can't be evil. But the people behind it, the things that it makes people do, that's the evil. But as my wife had noted, if you get rid of it, then something else is going to pop up and it's going to be worse. You know, there's a lot of people that saying, "Oh, MySpace is so evil." You know, we got to get rid of MySpace, and so there was this big push, and MySpace ended up getting sold, became a music whatever. But then Facebook popped up. Would Facebook have popped up if MySpace hadn't failed? Would Facebook have succeeded if MySpace had expanded? Maybe the social media world would be a better place if Tom from MySpace was going to the inauguration instead of Zuckerbucks. Okay, I don't know. I mean, who cares? We're just speculating there. But the point is this: is that fixing, getting American control over TikTok is superior. It's a lesser of two evils, we'll say. I don't like TikTok, but if it's going to be there, I would rather it be there and controlled by Americans than for it to be gone and then the TikTokers just go fly off to somewhere else, someplace that's still Chinese, still doing the exact same thing. Maybe it'll be smaller for a year, but I can just see the headlines in 18 months from now. CCP owned, I think, was it Red Panda, Red something, I forgot what it's called. There was this other app that's supposedly like TikTok. CCP owned Red Panda eclipses its TikTok in reach, and and whatever. It could be even worse. So, point being is that I know very little about MrBeast, but he wants to buy TikTok, so I did a segment about it. So we're going to play that now. MrBeast launches a bid to buy TikTok. Now, I am relatively indifferent when it comes to MrBeast, mostly out of ignorance. I mean, I know that he's had some scandals surrounding some of the people that are around him. I know that he's also had some quote-unquote positive press for some of his charitable work, kind of putting his money where his mouth is and actually getting stuff done. I think it was in Africa, building water wells, or could have been the Middle East. I'm not sure. I don't pay attention to him. My kids don't pay attention to him either, so that's probably why. I had any of them started following him and whatever, then I would have investigated and found out who is this guy and what is he doing to influence my children. But since I didn't get hit by MrBeast, apparently hundreds of millions have been, because he's super, super popular and apparently very, very rich enough to be able to mount an effort with some investors to buy TikTok. According to the post-millennial Hayden Cunningham over there, it says popular YouTuber Jimmy Donaldson, known as MrBeast, has announced his interest in purchasing TikTok in collaboration with a group of investors. The news comes as President Donald Trump extended the deadline for TikTok's Chinese-based parent company ByteDance to divest its U.S. operations within 75 days to avoid a permanent ban. MrBeast initially sparked speculation last week with a post on X stating, "Okay, fine, I'll buy TikTok so it doesn't get banned." While the post was initially perceived as a joke, MrBeast confirmed his intentions to purchase TikTok in a video 2 days later. He said, "I just got out of a meeting with a bunch of billionaires. TikTok, we mean business. This is my lawyer right here. We have an offer ready for you. We want to buy the platform." MrBeast's lawyers also confirmed to CNN that he is serious in preparing a bid alongside a group of investors. The investor group, led by Employer.com founder Jesse Tinsley, is made up of institutional investors and high net worth individuals who want the app to continue to operate in the U.S. Tinsley said, "Our offer represents a win-win solution that preserves this vital platform while addressing legitimate national security concerns. The bid amount has not been disclosed, and it remains unclear if ByteDance is open to selling." Now, to be clear, ByteDance is definitely open to selling. They just want to sell to somebody they can control. Seriously. I mean, this is what it comes down to. They've put so much time, so much effort, so much money to build something that is giving them just massive amounts of data. They might get more data about the United States and how to take us over, so to speak, how to fight us. They might get more data from TikTok than they do from their spy satellites. That's not hyperbole. I mean, this app, which is apparently used by 170 million or so Americans, gives them a massive amount of national security information. I mean, even just location data. They have access to that. Keep in mind, they know where 170 million Americans are at any given moment. It also gives them the ability to guide us, not us as in you and me, but guide apparently tens or hundreds of millions of Americans to make really poor decisions. It was about a year ago. About a year ago, I saw this comparison between TikTok America and TikTok China. So TikTok America, we all are familiar with it. Even if you don't use TikTok, you've come across TikTok videos of people doing really, really stupid things. I noted the other day how the entire body positive movement emerged as a result of TikTok. I think we've all heard about the various pranks that happen, people getting hurt, people willing to do really stupid things like really stupid things that get them and other people hurt. And then there's just the subtle changes in our behavior, sudden behavioral changes, poor choices that we make regarding our health, our psychology, whatever. Okay, I mean, and if you spend 10 minutes on TikTok, you'll understand why. I mean, it's basically, you've got, on one hand, it's very much a place for young, scantily clad individuals to dance around and do their thing, and then on the other hand, you've got basically soft porn, and then on the other hand, you've got the really poor decisions. People, that guy, I think he was a TikToker, some sort of influencer, going around and he's like spraying stuff, chemicals in grocery stores. People will do anything to go viral, and that's all bad enough. But then you compare it, and they were showing what's popular on Chinese TikTok, and it's like straight up just propaganda. You got students sitting there, they're learning new skills, and they're showing people how to build whatever, anti-American nuclear bombs or something. I don't know. They're just doing crazy things, but positive crazy things. Make sure to honor dear leader. Yeah, you can practice your religion as long as your God is under Xi Jinping, whatever. Yeah, it's a very, very different type of mechanism, and we don't get to see that. So I'll watch this news. I'll see what happens, but otherwise, I'm just gonna do nothing. I really do like this, by the way. I like this format. I was able to get 4 stories. Four. Trying to do my count, the count. 4 stories posted to the Liberty Daily during my little brief timeout there. That's good stuff. So and one of those stories we're about to talk about, because I think this is huge. I know it's huge. Let me pull it up here. I got to try to do this better, by the way. It's good. It's good. And for those who weren't here in the beginning, let me explain briefly while I get all this ready. See if we can multitask here. So for the last few days, what I've been doing is I'll do the regular show, for the live show for an hour, and then I will replay the morning show for an hour, and that gives me time to go in and do my work, because I'm on shift every day, 365 days a year. I'm on shift from 5 until morning, 5 p.m. until early morning. I'm on shift at the Liberty Daily, and we have to keep the stories flowing throughout the day, throughout the night, throughout the evening, whatever. And so, I can't sit here for 3 hours and not be working. So it's like, okay, I'll do that, and I'll do my hour live. Then I'll do about 56 minutes of a replay, and during the replay, I'll eat my dinner. I'll get these stories up there, and then I'll do another half hour or hour or so afterwards, and that's been fine. But it means that I've in between, right? So during the time when I'm not actually when I'm doing the show live, I might be missing stories. Like our entire intention over at thelibertydaily.com is to get the most important news up there. It's a conservative news aggregator, but to do it in a way that is the fastest. We want to beat everybody else. Okay, I know Drudge isn't exactly a conservative icon anymore, but we want to beat Drudge. We want to beat there's several of them out there, and we want to be the first ones with the stories. So that's why I've got to always be watching, So that's been the way we've been doing it. So instead, tonight, we're trying something different. I'm taking the individual segments, whether they're 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, individual segments from the morning show and interspersing them. So it's like I'll be talking live, and then we'll do like a 5-minute clip like I just did. And during that 5-minute clip, I'll go in, check my feeds, look at the news, see what's happening, post the Liberty Daily, come back and talk to you guys again live. That's what we've been doing. And I think that it's going to work out. I really do think that this is the better play. But let's get to this next story, which is, like I said, I think this is actually quite huge. If you ask me, people have been concerned. You even had before Trump won, they were asking not just him, but also members of Congress, as well as Tom Homan. Before anybody even knew that Tom Homan was going to be the border czar, they were asking him, how are you going to be able to deport all these people? It's going to be super expensive. And Tom was like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. What's the cost of the nation's security? It's a good answer. But we, now that we're here, we do need to figure out the logistics behind it. And apparently they have. According to this article over at taskandpurpose.com, which I don't go to very often, but apparently it's a pretty good one, says Air Force planes will fly deportation flights under the Trump orders. My goodness, look at that. C-17s, these things, C-130s, C-17s, these are mammoth planes. Mammoth planes. And yes, they are expensive. Okay? It's not like they're not super cheap to run, but hey, they can carry the bulk. And I think this is a good thing. So according to Jeff Shogel over there, a total of 4 C-17s and C-130s will be used to fly illegal aliens in detention out of the United States. How do we move them along? Throw them on a military plane? That really sends a very clear message. The U.S. military will fly about 5,400 migrants currently in detention out of the country as part of the Defense Department's response to President Donald Trump's declaration of a national emergency on the southern border, defense officials said on Wednesday. Better than flying Boeing. The air crews and maintainers involved in the deportation flights will be in addition to 1,500 active duty troops that the Pentagon will deploy to the southern border by the end of the week, the senior defense official said. This is where we say, it's happening! It's really happening! And it really is. On the flights, the Department of Homeland Security will provide in-flight law enforcement and diplomatic clearances. Will go through the State Department. Acting Secretary of Defense Robert Salesses, I don't know how to pronounce Robert's name, said in a statement, both the Department of Homeland Security and State Department are still determining where the migrants will be flown to, a senior defense official told reporters on Wednesday. And quite frankly, I don't care. I mean, fly them home, fly them somewhere else. I know it sounds like, oh, that's so mean. Well, you know what? It is mean. But they came into my country illegally. They invaded my country. So I just want them out of my country any way possible. And yes, would it be nice if there's some great, grand, easy way to do it? Some way that will dissuade them from ever coming back illegally? Now, if they want to come back legally, great. For those who don't know, I am a legal immigrant. Okay? I am 100% American, but I wasn't born here. Okay? Technically speaking, I'm a natural born citizen because my father was a member of the United States Air Force when he met my mother, stationed abroad, and they made me brought me back over, made my mom a citizen. My mother, who was obviously, she was not a natural born citizen, but she came to the United States. She joined the U.S. Army. She became an Army captain, and she served proudly for a long time. So yeah, I mean, like, I am not against immigration, but I am against illegal immigration wholeheartedly. And I am very much opposed to those who would try to take advantage of the largesse, the kindness that the United States offers. We can and should have a very strong and robust legal immigration system. But as of right now, because of so many millions of illegal aliens here, because of so many loopholes in the legal immigration system, I'm all for curtailing, completely cutting off immigration until we get this fixed. No, not. I mean, I'm down with zero. Okay, no new immigrants, legal immigrants, even no new legal immigrants until we get this fixed. Until we get the illegal aliens deported, until we get the broken immigration system fixed, and let's make it merit based. I'm all for it. People. There's the whole debate over O1 visas or H1B visas. I am in favor of bringing over merit people who deserve to come over, people who have the skills that they can bring with them, people who want to stay in the United States, who want to become U.S. citizens. Look, as an immigrant myself, I have zero allegiance elsewhere. I am completely and totally Americanized, I guess would be the made-up word, okay? I am an American through and through, even though I wasn't born here. I want more people like me, people who, I mean, if anything ever happened and I had to leave this country, I'm not a crier, okay? But I would be bawling if I had to live in another country because I love it here. I love this nation. And I would do anything to protect this nation. Anything. Anything that doesn't go against my faith, of course. Let's be clear. We put nations sometimes. It's like, I even catch myself. It sort of reverberates a little bit weird in my head. I always want to throw the disclaimer when I say, I'm America first. Well, technically, I'm God first, and family second, and America third. But as far as a nation goes, I'm America first. Oh, you get the idea. All right. Speaking of America first, I do work with an America First precious metals company. And this company, and a lot of them say they are, okay, but I can tell you with very, very insider knowledge, we'll say, that a lot of these gold companies, they might have some conservative, somebody better known than me, obviously, somebody out there saying, work with this company. This is who I like, and they pay these conservative show hosts or whatever a lot of money to say these things. But these companies, I know, again, with a certainty, that many of these companies, they were rooting for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to win. First Joe Biden, then Kamala Harris. There were some that they were actually caught at the DNC. They sent people to the DNC to have meetings and because they thought, they were really rooting. Because here's the thing, generally speaking, Democrats benefit gold prices and silver prices. When Democrats are in office, gold and silver go up. Now, Trump is the exception. Trump is a Republican. When Republicans get in, generally gold prices go down. But there's a reason why gold prices haven't been going down. They fell immediately after the election. That's to be expected. But ever since about a week before Christmas, gold prices have been going up. Silver prices have been going up, culminating in very recently we're approaching record highs once again. And the reason is because Trump is a very different kind of Republican. Okay, he's not George W. Bush. I can tell you that. And as a result, because of his policies, because of everything that's happening geopolitically, it does make sense to at least consider. And I'm not a financial advisor, but it does make sense to look into, consider moving your wealth or your retirement over to physical precious metals. So I'm going to turn over to much better paid spokespeople than me. People that are actually, I know these guys very well. I've talked to them. I've interviewed them both. I like them a lot. Dean Cain, who played Superman, and Neil McDonough, he's been playing everybody lately. He's fantastic. And like me, they also represent Genesis Gold Group.
I have one kid. You have 5 kids.
That's what you have.
How do you? That's incredible.
It's kind of like being an FBI agent. You're always kind of monitoring them and making sure everyone's safe.
Makes good sense. You know, I'm actually a real agent. Well, not an agent. I'm actually a deputy sheriff.
Are you really?
Right there. Many, many years.
Are you serious?
For real life, real life.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're a sheriff.
Yep.
Played at Princeton. Pro football player. Greatest superhero of all time.
Never drafted to Major League Baseball like you for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Thank you very much.
Knuckleballer. How do you hit a knuckleball?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
That's the whole point.
That was the beauty of it. You know, we may have always played on different sides, you know, being the superhero or the supervillain.
Supervillain.
But we have a lot more in common than I thought that we did.
Which is shocking, because one thing's for sure. Genesis Gold Group is a company that we both trust. They make safeguarding your IRA or your 401k as simple as possible. And I need simple,
That's right.
I'll be honest.
And with their stellar reputation, they're as solid as the gold that they sell.
Like this gold right here. So call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD.
What is that?
This is what they call a prepper bar. So like you can break off these, see these little pieces? Oh, it's on both sides.
And it's great because you can carry that around small. And
Oh yeah,
it's not
and you
like-
can literally use it to spend.
Or it's not like this one.
What?
This is a big fella. This is a really great one.
Is that real?
This is a real one. You want to hold it? It's heavy.
Holy smokes.
That's pretty great. Yeah, you can get them one of those from Genesis Gold yourself.
Hey, you guys see this? Look, check
Dean,
this out.
Dean, that's my kid's college tuition money. Hold on, I'll be back. Dean!
Yeah. Who's the supervillain now, huh?
Yeah, that's my goal, Dean!
Speaking of the evils of Democrats, and yes, obviously they are both faith-driven men, as is Genesis Gold Group, and they are both also conservatives, very very much so. I like talking to them a lot. So, speaking of other companies out there that were quietly, secretly supporting the Democrats, here's what they were wanting. This should make you shake your head. And, well, first it should make you upset with the Democrats, but then it should make you praise God for the last election, because thankfully we have ways to overcome some of their evils. Not all of them, but some of them. According to townhall.com, all Senate Democrats vote against protecting babies born alive from abortion. We're not talking about an abortion law where it's like, let's set the heartbeat bill or 15 weeks or 20 weeks or whatever. No. These are babies that survived abortions. They're alive. They're outside of the womb. And Democrats want them to die. It's hard to talk about because it's like hideous. Rebecca Downs over there at Town Hall. On Wednesday, all 47 Democrat senators voted against moving forward with Senator James Lankford's and Jim Banks's bill, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. The vote was 52-47, with the bill falling short of the necessary 60 votes. Such common sense legislation would merely protect babies born alive from failed abortions by ensuring they receive medical care. Republicans have repeatedly tried to get such a bill passed, only to face opposition from vehemently pro-abortion Democrats who often lie and mislead about the bill. And when we say often, it's 100% of the time. There is no common sense, or even in that there's definitely no ethical reason to say, well, here's a baby who was born, who is alive, and who we should now render medical care to this baby. And Democrats want to say no medical care for the baby, let the baby die on the table. I mean, there were fact checkers during the debate saying, well, that doesn't actually happen, except it does. Okay, they were saying it doesn't happen, and Tim Walz doesn't support that, except it happened in Minnesota 8 times under Tim Walz. They can't justify it in a way that doesn't make them seem hideous. So they lie about it. That's it. They lie about it. Legacy media lies about it. It's disgusting. And this is what this is. My heart breaks for this. The bill quite clearly lays out how babies born alive are persons deserving of equal legal protections and that they must receive medical care. If an abortion results in the live birth of an infant, the infant is a legal person for all purposes under the laws of the United States and entitled to all the protections of such laws. The bill states in its findings, any infant born alive after an abortion or within a hospital, clinic, or other facility has the same claim to the protection of the law that would arise for any newborn or for any person who comes to a hospital, clinic, or other facility for screening and treatment or otherwise becomes a patient within its care. It also adds under such a section. Not only is the mother of the child not prosecuted under such a bill, she may also bring civil actions for violations. Those medical professionals who fail to ensure the child is sent to the hospital and given the same care that any other child born at the gestational age can be fined, imprisoned for up to 5 years or both. Imprisoned for up to 5 years or both. They can be fined, imprisoned, or both. Okay. Banks released a statement that same afternoon. Almost every American agrees that a baby that takes their first breath deserves the same right to life as the rest of us do. I won't give up this fight for a common sense legislation to save the most vulnerable, he said. And again, every single Senate Democrat voted against this. Now they'll say, and I won't listen to them on this one. This is one of those, generally speaking, I'll listen to Democrats, I'll listen to RINOs, I'll listen to the opposition, I'll listen to the bad guys because I want to know what they're saying. On this one, it would only make me spit to hear what feeble excuse they can make for saying, well, this baby who was born alive must be allowed to die because the intention was to have them aborted. That's what they're saying without saying it. Now, they'll offer some stupid, feeble excuse. They'll say, well, but this is a slippery slope. There's a loophole here, and this will lead to mothers being imprisoned, and, the babies will be burned alive. I mean, they'll lie about the entire thing. They're liars. We talked earlier in the show, if you missed it, we talked earlier in the show about how to be in Washington, D.C. as a bureaucrat or as a politician, you inherently become a liar. Even if you didn't go in as a liar, you have to become a liar. That's part of the job, part of the gig. A truly honest person cannot survive in Washington, D.C., not without changing to become a less honest person. But when it comes to topics like this and people like those, the lies just jump off the page. I mean, they're so hideous, so heinous, so evil, so disgusting that all they have are the lies that they tell and legacy media protecting them. This is one of the reasons why I'm a humongous fan of this concept, that independent media can rise, that it is rising, and that it must rise. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of this shift away from ABC News, Fox News, CBS, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, whatever, NPR. I want to be part of that. I want to be an alternative to that because I will tell you the truth. And that's not to say that anybody who's in independent media, they're always going to tell you the truth, but I will. And most of the other ones will as well. Okay? I'm not going to vouch for anybody. But I can tell you this, that I will not directly or intentionally lie to you ever. I will report what I see. I will give you my opinion. I'm not going to even lie about that. I'm not going to say, oh, this is just the news. No, this is the news with my opinion thrown in. That's why it's called commentary. This is an opinion show. This isn't just me sitting here and, in other news, I read these not because you need to be read to. I read these because I need to give context for the opinions that I'm going to deliver regarding news like this. Oh, yeah, that one really got to me. That one got to me quite a bit. Let's go. I have one more segment from earlier today that I'm going to play. And this one's a fun one. Yeah. Stay with me just for a second. I just want to make sure I want to make sure that I'm doing the right one. Let's do it. All right. All right, watch this. Trump revokes Biden era order that allows transgenders to serve in the military. Now, it's funny that initially when I saw this and I saw the blowback from the left against this, I was very confused. I'm like, wait, so we've got DEI ending across the board in government agencies, government departments, affecting a lot of people. We've got DEI ending in schools. Okay, that's a new one that popped up. I think I might be covering it later. That's a new one that's popped up recently today, and that's huge. That affects a lot of people, right? Especially when it comes to college enrollment, siding with and enforcing what the Supreme Court has already determined, which a lot of schools unfortunately have not. But then this one pops up, and it's like, okay, well, that's not going to affect a ton of people, but oh my gosh, the backlash against this. I'm like, but this doesn't. And then I said, Rucker, stop thinking logically about who's going to be impacted, the number, the bulk, and remember who is going to be impacted. Yes, of course, I should have realized that anything that goes after the transgender supremacy agenda is going to get the lion's share of the anger and hatred from the radical left. This article comes from End Times Headlines. In a series of executive actions on January 21st, President Trump revoked a Biden-era order that permitted transgender individuals to serve openly in the U.S. military. This decision aligns with the administration's broader initiative to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within federal agencies. The rescinded order, originally implemented by Joe Biden in January 2021, had allowed transgender individuals to enlist and serve openly in the armed forces. While President Trump's recent action do not immediately reinstate a ban on transgender service members, it paves the way for potential future restrictions, and praise God for that. Now, here's the thing: the order is being attacked with all. Hold on, before you sit down for this one, because this is kind of a big deal. The arguments against this order coming from the radical left, there is a hint of logic to them. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. What they're saying is that it shouldn't matter, if a trans woman, as they call them, if a dude who wears high heels and whatever, if he can meet the physical requirements and he's able to march as far as he needs to march, he can carry the pack, he's physically able to fire a weapon and do all these things and follow orders, shouldn't his gender have nothing to do with it? And it's like, well, that is a logical argument, except for two important things. And I want you to take note of this in case you are faced with this argument in the future. Number one, I don't care what people do in their own lives. Okay, if a dude wants to wear lipstick, great, awesome, do it. As long as you're doing it in your own life, right? You're not trying to promote this to other people. You're not trying to groom children, for example. And part of that is that your actions, your life choices cannot affect the others around you. And in the heat of battle, having having transgenders around you as part of your military group, okay, your battalion, your squad, whatever, that's not a good thing. It's going to affect the group. It's going to affect individuals. If you are a strapping young man running into battle, okay, you want to be surrounded by other strapping young men running into battle, right? You don't want. So in other words, it does have an impact being transgender, even if they have all the physical qualities that they're able to use. There's something in the back of the mind. There's a difference. There's a difference that happens, and it's biological. It's an instinct. Okay, it's not like something where, I guess you're saying that military men are discriminatory. No, they can't help it. Just as they couldn't help it if they're running into battle and there's a woman next to them. We as men, we have an instinct to try to protect that woman. Not the other way around. And people say, that's sexist. Okay, well, I mean, if that's what you think it is, I'm just saying that there are differences between men and women, and there are differences between straight, whatever men, regular men, and transgender people. Gosh, I always struggle with trying to figure out their pronouns. it bugs me. But arguably the biggest reason that this order makes a lot of sense is because up until just very recently, gender dysphoria was considered to be a mental illness, not something that you affirm, something that you treat. And we don't need mental illness within our military ranks. It detracts from our military effectiveness. We have to get back into the business of letting our warfighters fight wars. Not necessarily, I don't want them to fight wars, but to be able to be ready for the defense of our nation. So you don't want a whole bunch of mentally ill people in the military. I mean, like I said, this was common sense up until very recently, up until really the Obama years. Before then, gender dysphoria, mental illness, probably shouldn't give that person a rifle and send them into battle with men. So somebody just informed me that that's actually the clip that I played earlier. I need to do some fine tuning to this. I think we've got the right format. I really do. I think that this will allow me to be able to do the show and still maintain, what I'm doing here with the Liberty Daily and with my other sites, AmericaFirstReport.com, DiscernReport.com. These are all sites that I believe are useful in helping to spread the right word, spread the word that Americans need to hear. Not just conservatives, Americans. I think that we learned, if anything, from the last election cycle, we learned that not everybody who's been voting Democrat or been woke or been leftist or been progressive or whatever, that they're not all locked in. It might feel like it sometimes. I know it does to me. Sometimes I'm like, just wipe the dust off the sole of your shoes and move on. But that's an interesting note. Watch Woman on the Wall. If you were on right after Salty Cracker at 8:30 p.m. Central, you would have more viewers. It's something to consider. So you just happened to be up late tonight. So in other words, if I started 30 minutes earlier, something to consider. That is definitely something to consider. So I've got to do some tweaking to the show, and thank you for that. Thank you for the compliment, and thank you for the advice. I'm taking any advice that I can. This isn't a hobby. This is what we're striving to do as my livelihood. This is something that we want to do for a living, and I've been doing it for a living for quite a while. It's not the most lucrative thing. For those who don't know, maybe you're new to the show. Prior to 2017, I owned a company. I sold off my half of that company. It was a very good company, still is a very good company. I sold off my half because I just didn't want to be that guy. I made stupid, crazy money back then. But I wasn't really participating in saving the nation. I didn't feel right. And there were other circumstances. I had a child born. My wife and I, we have children born every decade for the last 3 decades. I know that sounds weird, but that's sort of our thing. She loves it. Not during the process, but she loves it after we actually have the kids. So, but with that said, there were the last child that we had. That was a part of the decision-making process as well. I got out of corporate America, got into doing this, and this is what I want to do. So I am definitely open to advice. We keep tweaking the show. My wife was really, I guess, lambasting me yesterday. She's like, I don't care what you do, just be consistent with it. Pick a time, because like last week it was 6 o'clock. We moved it to 7 o'clock yesterday. Now I'm being told maybe we should move to 6:30. Not a bad idea. But yeah, it's we gotta figure this out, because I do want to reach as many people as possible. This isn't just about making money. This really is about doing what I can, doing my part to help make America great again, to help spread the gospel, to help expose as many Americans as possible to the truth. There are conspiracy theories out there that are true. I don't, you can say what you will. Oh, no, not another conspiracy theorist. Well, yeah, I am. Now, do I think that Paul McCartney died in the 1960s in a car accident and was replaced by a doppelganger so that the Beatles could continue to print money? No, I do not. I don't think that one. Do I think the earth is flat? No, I do not. I don't buy into that one. Do I think that building 7 coming down inexplicably was something crazy? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Do I think that COVID came from bat soup? No, I don't. There are certain things that we're told. I would say, is depending on how much news you digest, you might be getting lied to literally every single day. Because most of what we're being told is either a manipulation at best or a lie, an outright lie. They're lying to us. And now with President Trump in the White House, we have an opportunity to, I think, expose a lot of the truths. He can do the heavy lifting. He and his team, the White House and Republicans in Congress, they can do the heavy lifting as far as getting rid of DEI in government offices or deporting illegal aliens as they should be. But there are other things that need to be done, need to be discussed. We still don't know what happened on New Year's Day. We have very few answers about the 2 attacks that happened on New Year's Day, and there's a lot of conspiracies, particularly surrounding what happened in Las Vegas, the man behind that. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced that he was the guy in the truck. There's still questions that need to be answered. Whatever happened to that mysterious fog that was causing all sorts of mayhem? What about the drones over New Jersey and other states? I mean, we don't have answers. We don't even know. We still have no word from the FBI about really anything pertaining to the Mandalay Bay shootings. I mean, that was what, 6-8 years ago? It was a long time ago. And we still don't have answers about that. We still don't know what happened or what is happening in Lahaina. I mean, there's so many things out there. We're being lied to about them. And, are there going to be certain conspiracies that aren't really conspiracies? They're just nothing burgers? You betcha. And hopefully I'll have the discernment. We together will have the discernment to know this is weird and this needs to be discussed. This is fake and push it aside. Send that over to some obscure conspiracy theory website. We need to figure those things out. And yes, part of what I want to do is to help spread the gospel. I want to do a lot more when it comes to, I'm not a pastor, okay? I'm not going to sit here and, okay, open your Bibles to, that's not me. But I do like to talk about the Bible. I do like to talk about aspects of the Bible, especially things that I believe are not properly discussed in many churches across America. These are all things that I want to do. But the only way that I can do it is if we can get this show really kicking, okay? Get people to subscribe. This is one of the reasons I have if you're watching on my Rumble channel, I have a separate Rumble channel. You can get to it at jdrucker.com/rumble1, the number 1. And long term, that's where I want to, kind of like in the beginning of Indiana Jones, the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he taking the bag of sand, he's replacing it on. I'm sort of trying to do that a little bit, and I'll explain why later. But it's good to have backups. It's good to have further things. I'm still on YouTube. People ask me, why are you on YouTube? It's just for search. That's it. I just want to be searchable. You can't, for whatever reason, and I think we know the reason. If you're just on Rumble, just on X, just on BitChute, Brighteon, the alternatives to YouTube or Facebook, then, people do a search for your kind of videos. They're not going to find them. Not in the search engines. So it is what it is. Let's see. Oh wow, lots of chats. Sorry, I am trying to be more engaging with the chats as they come through. I like your show. I like your watching my show. Let's see. Crybabies are rough. Yes, yes. Corona equals radiation virus. Okay. Poison. Put them together. Yeah. Okay. I like where your head's at. Dr. Robert Young, Rumble Channel, tested the fog particles. If you were a pastor, I wouldn't listen to you. There you go. Scripture is not a religion. It is a way of life. Amen. Amen to that. We live the scripture. To me, the Bible is the source code. That's it. I don't need to sit here and ramble on about particular Bible verses and explain to you, this is what they mean by, we live the Bible. We do the best we can to emulate what the Bible teaches us. And that's what I do want to talk more about. I don't want to talk about, like I said, more pastor stuff. That's not my gig. Not my gig, but hey, Nephilim, we're going to talk about him someday. Someday, Lord willing, I will be back very soon, hopefully tomorrow morning, with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.